Yvonne from Pree Designs Paper Crafting. Today I'm going to show you card number 2 in my series of One Bundle 4 Ways, and this month of May I'm using the Fern and Flora bundle of products. Now that the camera's turned around, so this was card number 1 in my series of One Bundle 4 Ways. This one is card number 2, which is the one I'm going to showcase today. I've used the two-tone cardstock and sanded it back once I had embossed it. The products that I'm going to be using today are a card base, which I like to use the thick basic white, and then a piece of the two-tone cardstock. It's actually a lighter shade one side than the other, and it has a white core. You can just see that white edging there. That shows you that it's a white core. And the size for that one is 14.3 by 9.5. I'm also going to use a couple of pieces of the Peaceful Pine cardstock, the Old Olive cardstock, a nice little white piece which is 2 centimeters wide by 10.5, a couple of silver, no they're not silver, they're gold, foil pieces, a little bit of leftover vellum from another project. I just need this piece here. I've made sure that's the right size, and another little piece of basic white. And then I need to cut out an archway, and I'm going to use this piece here. All right, I'll get started. I'm going to first off emboss my two-tone cardstock. The first card that I made here, I used the darker side, but just to show you the difference, I'm going to use the lighter side in my video today. So I simply put my cardstock in my embossing folder. Sorry for the bright light, but that's my overhead lights. Just pop that in and then I'll run it through the cut and emboss machine. I'm back with my embossed two-tone cardstock. I've also turned on my camera light. So now I'm just going to show you how easy it is to sand this back. You can see that the cardstock has already broken a little bit in the embossing folder. If you don't want to showcase the white underneath, just spritz your paper a little bit before you pop it through the embossing folder. Then I'm just going to use a sanding block. Now this sanding block is one that Stampin had for us several years ago. It's nice and easy to use. If you don't have a sanding block, just pinch a bit of sandpaper. You don't want really, really coarse sandpaper from outside in the shed, or grab a piece from your local hardware store. You don't need a lot, and whether you put it on a block like I've got here, or simply just hold it in your fingers. So I'm just sanding off as much of the colour as I wish, just bending the card to get into all of the little elements there. I want a little bit more off there. So just manipulating it a little bit, take a little bit more of the white off, which will give it a little bit more interest. All right, so that's enough for that one. Now I'm going to take my card base and I'm going to adhere that just, oops, I need to trim that off a little bit. It's just a little bit too long. Maybe I should have made it 13.8 by 9.5. So I'll just bring in my paper trimmer and trim that off camera. Right, so that's better. That's got a nice even border all the way around. I'm going to use my Tombow liquid glue to adhere that to my card base. So the corrected size for this piece was 13.8 centimeters by 9.5. Then I'm going to take my blank piece of basic white, and I'm going to go and die cut the number 5 Everyday Arches archway. So when I number them, I always number a nested set. I number them from smallest to largest, going from the inside out. So again, I'll just go off camera and die cut that one. And then while I'm out there as well, I'm going to die cut 2 of the beautiful fern pieces. The first one, the smaller one in Old Olive, the larger one in Peaceful Pine. And then I'm also going to die cut the vellum while I'm off camera as well. Be back in a moment. Right, so I'm back with my die cut pieces. I've used the large fern, as I said, with the Old Olive piece. I've used, no, that wasn't the large fern, that was the smaller fern. This one's the larger fern with the Peaceful Pine. And then with the vellum, I've used the other lovely little fern piece. Now sometimes your vellum doesn't cut quite right. If you put it in the middle of your cut and emboss machine, sometimes it doesn't cut through all the fibres, but if you put it on the edge of your die cut and emboss machine, it should cut out much better. So they're all my little pieces. I'll put those aside. Now I'm on my little scrap piece. I'm going to stamp a little butterfly. And I'm going to stamp that in our Golden Glow. These are our fabulous new ink pads. I love them because personally I have issues with my fingers. I don't like opening the old ones, and I can't wait till all of the ink pads come in these magnetic cases. Really, really good, really, really easy to use. And I actually find them much easier to use in my in-person classes as well, because I can pass the ink pads around the table with the lid on. So that stops any risk of anybody knocking their work or their card onto an opened ink pad. So I've just stamped those two images. Now those images are out of our Fern and Flora stamp set, which is that one there. Now I'm going to take the greeting from the Phrases and Frames stamp set, which is this one here. May your day be filled with love and happiness. I'm going to set that up on a block and stamp that on, hopefully right in the middle of this piece here, and I'm going to gold emboss it. So I just want to use my embossing buddy just to take off any greasy fingerprints, any fibres off the cardstock, ink up my stamp, and then hopefully I'm going to stamp this lovely and straight. I have to bring it a bit closer to me. Hopefully my head's not going to get in the way of the video. And stamp it. And then put my embossing powder on. Now I put my embossing powder in little containers because it makes it much, much easier to use. I'm pretty happy with that. And now I will go away and I'll heat set it. Right, so I've heat set that. Now, of course, you can use any greeting that you wish. If you don't have this particular greeting, that's fine. Just use any one that you've got in your craft stash. All right, so now I'm going to adhere my golden pieces in behind. Now, to do this, I like to use my craft mat. It makes it much easier to work with. I put my glue down and I just want to show a little bit of the gold. You wouldn't have to have used such a large piece as I've used, but I just want to show a little bit of the gold peeking out the bottom and peeking out the top of my greeting banner. Oops, that's moved. I'll just move that back. The beauty of glue, but it does take a couple of moments to set. All right, so then I'm just also trying to make sure that I've got roughly the same border at the top. I'm just going to slide that one down as I do at the bottom. And I'm pretty happy with that. So I'm just going to put that aside to dry. Then I'm going to pop all of my other elements on. With the archway, I'm going to use dimensionals. As I've mentioned in my previous video, I do like to use my Take My Pick tool to put my dimensionals on with. It makes it nice and easy, and it also makes it nice and easy for me to remove the paper sheets or the backing sheets. That looks good there. I'm going to use a tiny little bit of glue. Shouldn't have taken this out. Tiny little bit of glue on the back spine of the fern. Now, I've probably got a little bit too much glue there, and I don't actually want to stick this down hard and fast. So I'm just going to touch it to my silicone mat, and then that will take off any excess glue that I've got so it doesn't smoosh out, as I like to say, out of the edges. So you can see that that's stuck down nicely. I'm going to do exactly the same on the back of this die. Again, touch to my silicone mat to take off any excess glue, and then pop that on that piece. Now with vellum is really sometimes hard to work with because if you put glue dots or anything like that on vellum, it will often show through. So here, because I've got enough glue on here, I am just, oopsie, don't want to pick up the glue on the front. I am just touching my vellum to the leftover glue there, and that will be enough to hold it down. However, I now have glue on my fingers. All right, so that's stuck down nicely there. I'll get rid of my silicone mat. I'm going to bring in my greeting now, and I want that to sit across the center of the card. So I'm going to pop a couple of dimensionals on the edge pieces here, where I want that to sit. Now, I don't put dimensionals through here because my archway is already on dimensionals. If I put dimensionals on here, then that would be a double dimensional because one under here, then one under the sign, and I would need two at each end here. So I'm just going to put a little bit of glue on the back of my greeting. I've got to stand up so I can get this straight. But then pop my greeting down. That has slipped a little bit, but that's okay. Right. So that's it so far. Then I'm going to go away and I'm just going to die cut the tiny little butterfly, which is in our die set, which I haven't shown you. I'll bring that in to show you. That's all of our dies. I'm just going to go and die cut that little butterfly. And then I'm going to just fold his little wings up. I'm going to use a mini dimensional on the back of the butterfly, just in the middle. Take off the paper and then attach that just down the base. All right, so that's looking pretty good. And now for a little bit of bling, I'm going to use the metallic backed, adhesive backed gems, if I can get them out. And I want to use the gold ones. I haven't got any gold left on that sheet. So I'm going to use, I can hardly tell which are the gold ones under this light, but that one there, that's a nice gold. One of the little ones. I like to use my pokey tool or my take your pick tool to pick up the gems because it then gets underneath the gem and it holds it nicely and easily to place it onto my work. And then I need an envelope and insert just to finish off. So I've already gone ahead and embossed both of these. I just like, sometimes I don't want to stamp them. I just like to do something a little bit different. So I've just placed the edge of my insert, which is just a little bit of copy paper, just in on the edge of my embossing folder, and then pop that through the machine. Now, of course, it can't go through this way because it's too wide. So always never put the fold of your embossing folder through the cut and emboss machine last. Turn it sideways because then you won't damage or pop the hinge. So I've done that for both my insert and my envelope. And then I'll just put a little bit of Seal Plus on there to pop that inside. I always only just put one little strip, and this is just basic copy paper. You could put cardstock in there, but I feel that's a waste. And there is my card number 2 and my matching envelope. And here is my other one. You can see the 2 different colours of the 2 tone. So far we have card number 1 and card number 2 done. I hope you've enjoyed watching this little video. Stay tuned for card number 3.